All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus, our YouTube page. Mike Catalana. I am Jenna Cottrell. Dan Fates, do not fret. He just has a day off. He will be back with us very shortly. But Mike, let's get into it. We're about 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. A lot of movement going on in the NFL. How do you think the Bills now prepare, getting ready for the event that's 2 weeks away?
Yeah, I look at Brandon Beane as a guy who, does get a little anxious, right? Look at what he told us last year. He's like, that first round's going to go by. And I traded my pick, and I had to keep telling myself, we have Stephon Diggs. We have Stephon Diggs. Like, this is what they live for, right? But it's nice if you're Brandon Beane to be in the position he is in. They are a team that is established. They have a winning program. They know they're a step or two away from what they ultimately want. But they do not go into this draft with needs. They go into it with wants. And there is a difference. Like, they do not. Well, they do. I mean, if you look at it, you say to yourself, they have their starting 22 players. They can field that team. Now, look, that doesn't mean a rookie corner doesn't come in and start for them, which they're going to compete. And you draft the right running back, and that guy, Najee Harris comes to Buffalo, he's going to play. Like, I'm not saying that's not happening. Look at what happened last year with like Dave Davis and how much he played. But they aren't sitting there going, we have to get our left tackle of the future in this draft. So I think there's a sense of, I won't say calm, because no NFL team is calm, but there is a sense of comfort in knowing that they have a good team and they're going to make it better coming up draft time.
How much, and you talk about that difference, but when you look around the NFL, there's not a lot of teams that are in that position. How important is that, especially off the success that they had in the last year, that they can build off of that and not feel that need of, oh my gosh, we have 6 positions that we have to get better at?
I look at it 2 ways. I think it's 80% positive, 20% negative. And the reason I bring that up is it does concern me a little bit, the whole run it back thing. And I really like the guys they're bringing back. Yeah. But there is a sense of like, yes, they've made a few moves, but it's the same bunch. And I like the energy that the new guys bring. Look at Darrell Williams, what he did for them. And he was a nothing signing when they brought in. So the difference between Darrell Williams and Steph Diggs is huge, right? One guy gave up one pick. He's a top player. He becomes a star. But Darrell Williams became a key guy. You brought that energy. We saw what Feliciano did the year before, right? When he came in. Like, you do get that. They don't have as much of that this year. And I do think while they're chasing the Chiefs, we've talked about this. What are the Colts thinking? What are the Browns thinking? What are the Ravens thinking? We're going to get Buffalo on our way to the Chiefs. And that doesn't mean they will, but I like when they're doing the chasing. And they've basically pushed everybody else aside. So, yes, I think it is a good problem to have when you have your quarterback, your coach, your coordinators, your starting players, because they are good. But they're going to need to create that and for a new vibe for a new season. I think they can, but it's not going to be from new players coming in.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of trades that go on in terms of the draft, figuring out what you want. Do you predict or expect for the Bills to stay at 30, or do you think that there is the possibility they would want to try and go up?
I think they could go up, they could go back. I think it could happen either way. I do believe if they think, like Brandon Beane has done this before, if he believes there's a guy there, and I guess I was trying to figure, like, at what number, everybody wants Kyle Pitts. Like, who doesn't want Kyle Pitts? Well, you're not going up to 3 or 4 to get him. It's just crazy. Nobody's giving that up. But at what point is there a guy? I used this example on the radio the other day. J.C. Horn, the corner, right? His dad played in the NFL, wide receiver, and he looks like he's going to be that guy. Well, what if J.C. Horn slips to 19 or 20? I don't think he will, but what if he does? And the Bills have him as the, top player on their board by far. I could see him pulling the trigger on that. I mean, now you are, 4 years out from drafting Trey. You've re-signed Trey. He's at another level. Bring in another number 1 corner on the other side. Yeah, I could see them doing that. Or a spot or two, sure, to give up something. I would say if it's not that kind of guy, I think it's maybe even more likely they trade out of the first round, pick up an extra pick. But they can stay at 30. I mean, they do have, positions that are perfect for that pick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice that they're not in that position. Now, we talk about the other teams in the league. Julian Edelman retiring. I feel like when you look at this Patriots team from even 2 years ago, you're like, what a night and day difference from those, those guys that would be on the billboard. It's like, obviously Brady's gone. Edelman's, done retiring. It just goes to show you how quickly things change in the league.
Yeah. And with a team like that, it just never seemed to change. But, Gronk left first, and then obviously Brady, and then winning. And, and Edelman, yes, he got hurt last year, and you knew that his shelf life was going to end quickly. I mean, that guy did as much of a pain as he was for Bills fans. You would have loved, you would have loved to have had that guy on the team.
Yeah.
And then
he's
I look
the type
on
of guy
team,
that you love. If he's on your team, you love him. And if he's not, you hate him.
And the Bills have that guy now, right?
Yeah.
I think Cole's that guy. I think he's tough. I think he makes those plays. I think he does many of the things that Edelman did all those years. And now he's the guy that just bugs the heck out of the other team. He really does. Because he looks like nothing, like Edelman. When I say nothing, I'm talking about these giant human beings who can move like whatever.
Wise.
Cole Beasley, half the time we can't tell if he's Chad Hall, the wide receiver coach, or if it's Cole, right?
It's funny. I don't think a lot of people. One of the videos came out and they're like, wow, Cole Beasley. I'm like, that is Chad Hall. That is not
now
him.
Chad Hall was in the league too, but another small guy. But Cole Beasley's that guy. So while you look back and go, man, Julian Edelman hurt the Bills so many times. It is the difference in New England now. Not that they can't be good, but they aren't going to be the same good that they were before, which it seemed like the same guys killing you all the time. If Bill's going to do it, he's doing it with basically a new crew this time.
Yeah. And we know in terms of the AFC East, obviously the Jets will have a new quarterback, Sam Darnold, being introduced in Carolina. I mean, everyone's talking about, we already know what the Jets are going to do. We already know what the Jets are going to do. How do you make of how much that does change the AFC East?
It does, because I think the Jets are going to be a team that knows, at least for the foreseeable future, they have a coach, right? Everybody just assumed Gaze was gone. It was just a matter of time before he was out. And they put Sam Darnold. I do, in a way, feel badly for Sam Darnold. When I heard him talk yesterday, he was like, I thought it was going to work in New York. I wanted it to work. But if you're him, much like Carson Wentz, I think I look at them similar ways to say, wait a minute, I tried to make it work. It did not work. I'm going somewhere else. I don't have to deal with the mess that I left behind. And so I think the Jets at some point might look at that and say, we had this guy, because I think he's going to play well in Carolina. But for the Bills' perspective, they'll be dealing with a rookie, and I'm not 100% on him. I mean, I see him. He's a BYU kid. He didn't play against the greatest competition. He's going to start right away for the Jets. I think there'll be flashes. But when I looked at the Jets, in my opinion, quarterback was not their number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 problem. I think that guy would have played well with better coaching around him. And I think Sam Darnold would have been a heck of a quarterback for the Bills if they would have gotten him. Maybe not Josh Allen, but I think he would have been a good quarterback. So I'll tell you, maybe we'll be stunned, and maybe he'll come in, Wilson will come in and just crush it with the Jets. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait to see.
It makes it so interesting, though, because I feel like there are the similarities between Allen and Wilson in terms of, is the competition level good enough, coming from maybe a smaller school, things like that. And just to see, I think the Bills, it's an interesting case study because I don't think there's that much patience around the league to have it be, like that to me is it's very rare. And maybe because Buffalo is a smaller market, there was the availability of that. Maybe because the team was in such a tough place before, a new coach, all of these things. But I feel like the environment was right. I mean, obviously Josh is taking those steps. We see the quarterback that he is now, but it is interesting to look at because, like you said, I mean, I think Sam Darnold, if the Bills were to take him, he would have progressed, maybe not to the point of what Allen is, but, coaching is also a huge piece of it. Where you end up, the talent that is there surrounding you is, I mean, that makes such a big difference.
It's important. And the other part that's important is you have the trust of the entire organization. And
yes.
I think at the moment in Miami, Tua has passed that test. They have shown the faith in him. They could have been taking a quarterback. Doesn't appear to be that they are now. And Tua's going to get that chance. And I think if he has a chance to succeed, they need to do that for him. That's the one thing about the Bills. When you look in hindsight, the fact that Sean McDermott made the playoffs year one with Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback, it sort of took that whole thing off of the plate. They've made the playoffs now. And then it allowed them to start the rebuild a little bit more. They got Josh. Let's be honest, it was rocky at times. It never got to the point where you're like, oh my God, the guy can't play. But there was a concern, like, how high is he going to go? And then to see him elevate that much in his third year. And to think about that, even going into last season where Josh was like, okay, he's been good. He showed he can play, but hadn't thrown for 300 yards in a game yet. And then he comes out and does this. So it's kind of comical when we see, like people questioning whether Tua is the guy. And what did he start last year? 8 games?
I was say after the
8
bye.
games coming up injury, right? So it's like when you look around, you say, no, there is no patience. And now that quarterbacks have started to bounce around the league, it's nutty what went on this offseason. All of the changes that have gone on. So, I think it's just odd that while everybody else had stability and the Bills were the mess, constantly changing, now that they have stability, it feels like everybody around them is constantly changing at the quarterback spot. And that's a huge plus for them because it is. Yeah. And to think that at some point, it's going to take a lot for all 3 teams in the division, a rookie, a second-year guy, and Cam and whoever else they bring in. It's going to take a ton for them to be at Josh Allen's level. Think about that. He has really elevated himself well above the rest of them, and the Bills are in a unique position there at the quarterback spot.
It's been long enough, though. I feel like so many Bills fans have been waiting, so maybe not patiently, but
I think it's hard to find another division where the disparity is that great. And I would say you could have said the AFC West, and it still is, because any division where Mahomes is great, but Herbert looked fantastic last year.
I was going to say, there's more parity.
Yeah, and in mostly every other division, I guess at the moment, maybe Dak right now is above everybody in the NFC East.
Yeah.
And now that Stafford's out with the Lions, it's Rodgers, but, you kind of look around and see what everybody else is trying to do, and maybe it's closer there and he's been around longer. Yeah, but it is funny that the Bills team has the quarterback right now. And you talked about like the marquee, like the Patriots. When the Bills are playing in their 14 night games this year, it's going to be Josh Allen's face plastered on the ESPN or NBC wall talking about the game. And the other teams struggle with that.
Well, do you remember when the Bills were playing the Patriots on Monday night and it was only the Bills highlights?
Yeah.
There were, as a preview, there were no Patriots highlights. I mean, what a world.
Who is on that team? Well, that's New England at the moment still doesn't have a marquee player. I mean, what are you going to say,
Yeah, like a household recognizable for other teams. Yeah.
Well, right. Now you do have Cam, and if Cam becomes that guy again this year where he's the starter and he's playing well, it's Cam Newton, former MVP, and everybody knows Cam, and he has the cool hats, but he's not that player anymore. He's not a top 15 quarterback. Yeah. Maybe not top 20 this year. So we'll see.
Yeah. We know it'll be quite fun. All right, the draft is a couple weeks away.
Yep.
It's a little over 2 weeks away. We'll have plenty more previews. We're also going to go position by position, breaking down who we think. We'll do some mock drafts as well to get everyone prepared. And Dan Fates will, of course, be joining us for then. He just had a day off.
To have Dan predict them taking a running back in the first round.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine? He couldn't do it. He could not do it.
Yeah.
Dan couldn't do it.
He could no. It could be
every fiber of his being, but he'd
be
like,
like, I don't. You draft Najee Harris. I don't know what you're going to do with him. What are we going to do? Running the ball? You got Josh Allen. You got. I can.
If
hear
you
him.
guys don't know Mike like I do, which you probably don't, every time he's mockingly or jokingly talking about someone, he uses the exact same voice, and you all just
It's it's the mocking voice. I used it on the air last night, but it wasn't my voice. It was the one Scott Hetzko used, talking about the way people sometimes talk to him. So I brought that voice out on the air last night for Scott Hetzko. So as we get to a certain age, and you are far from it at the moment, we develop a certain voice and we will use it. And I break it out all the time. So that voice was Scott Hetzko or someone talking to him, and Dan Fates.
And Dan Fates. So, and plenty of others. Yeah.
Oh, plenty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you like the video, make sure to like it, subscribe. We always appreciate it. For Mike Catalana.
Yes. I was just going to say, thanks for sticking with it.
Yes.
We've been a little slow on the videos coming back, and we thank everybody for their support. Those who know what our group has been going through, we really do appreciate that from many, many of you. We want to get back. We want to be doing this. We appreciate your support and your patience with us. But the Bills are back. And we're back, and we thank you for being with us.
Yeah, we appreciate your understanding during the last couple of weeks. So thank you, everyone, for all of that. Again, we appreciate it. We always appreciate the feedback. Any comments you have, please be sure to leave them below. For Mike Catalana, I am Jenna Cottrell. Dan Fates will be joining us next time. Thanks so much for joining us here on Buffalo Plus.